One more. Here we go.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Amy from Alaska,
And I'm Bobetta from Oklahoma.
but we're probably going to die.
Here in California.
I sure hope so.
Welcome to our podcast, Beside Death Life, where we'll be discussing dealing with death, but from the vantage point of living.
With a dash of humor, because why not?
I mean, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Woohoo!
Put it in everything.
You guys, we did
it!
Good morning. Amy is back from her road trip.
Odyssey. It was an odyssey.
It was an odyssey. You even got a headless doll on your way. We'll have to talk more about that another time. We have a guest today, artist Steve Morrell. And I have titled this kind of like, I don't know which way it's going, like Death of a Salesman, Birth of an Artist, or vice versa. But I want you, Steve, to tell us how you got to where the heck you are, which is a living, breathing, selling, working artist, which is super cool.
Wow. Do I start all the way back from the very, very beginning? Or do I start in my professional life?
What's the beginning? Is that like your depressing childhood?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, although the depressing part has nothing to do with overtly anyway.
Yeah.
So why don't I start from the very, very beginning then?
Okay.
Just to get. So I was always artistic. I always liked to draw. My mother saw that very early on, and like she would always get me to connect the dots in the coloring books while she'd get my brother other stuff because she saw that there was there was something going on there. So I drew a lot, and then when I was a teenager, a friend of mine got his jacket painted. Back in the 80s, it was the cool thing to do to get album covers painted on the back of denim jackets. Iron Maiden and Slayer and all that stuff, like that was all Metallica, that was all the rage, right? So a friend of mine got his jacket painted and it came out terribly. And I looked at this jacket and I was like, I know I've never painted in my life, but I know I can do better than that. So we went to the store together and we bought some paints and we literally cut some hair off of his head and made a paintbrush.
Oh my God.
And that was how I painted my first jacket, and it came out great. And the next thing I knew, I became the guy in my town. I grew up in Yonkers, New York. I became the guy to go to get your jacket painted. And I was like 14, 15 years old, painting these kids' jackets from all over town. And it was so funny because I had like no like sense of business whatsoever. Like a jacket would take me like 2 weeks to do when I would charge like $40. It was like 40 hours of work for like and then then high school was coming to a close and I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to be a fine artist? And I did not want to be a fine artist because I didn't want to be poor.
Right.
So I studied graphic design and went on a hiatus with my painting because I did paint in college, even though it wasn't my major. But once I got out of college and started working, I didn't pick up a paintbrush for a long time. And this becomes kind of a theme here because then I was in my 30s, I was in advertising, I was doing creative direction, copywriting work, and I was married at the time. And my wife showed me this article in this magazine about dog portraits and how it was all the rage to get dog portraits.
Right.
And it was the same thing. I was looking at these portraits like, these are not very good. I know I can do better than that. And I picked up my paintbrush again and I started doing dog portraits. And I did that for a while in New York. And it was basically just for fun. It was like for beer money because I was in advertising. I was doing the big advertising agency thing. And it was just there wouldn't be enough time to do both.
Right.
But in New York, I didn't consider myself an artist. I'm sure I was doing these dog portraits, but I considered myself more of like a craftsman, a draftsman. Yeah. Like I didn't really, it wasn't coming out of me. Like someone would say, here's a picture of my dog, or I would go take a picture of a dog and then I would just paint that picture. And
Wait, were you better than the ones you saw?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I painted a mean dog portrait for Sure.
Okay.
So then I left New York in 2016 and I moved to Boulder, Colorado. The marriage had ended with the wife, and I was looking for a change of careers already, right? I went to Boulder to study something called Rolfing, which is
Oh, hoodoo
yeah,
voodoo.
a little hippy dippy, but I lean a little hippy dippy, so it was right up my alley.
Do you know what rolfing is, Amy?
Nope, nope.
Tell
I mean,
tell
I
us.
know what Ralph when you throw up, but I don't know.
No, this is ROLF. So it's Ida Rolf is the name of the person who invented this modality, which is a sort of combination of physical therapy and massage and chiropractic and maybe even a little Reiki thrown in. I don't know. But again, little hippy dippy, but very physical, aggressive body work, basically. And I went to go study that, and I decided at some point that it wasn't for me. But it introduced me to Boulder, and I stayed in Boulder, and that's when the art started coming out. And my theory about that is that my nervous system finally had a chance to relax, and
Would
also
you
I just what's that?
would you attribute that to, I mean, I'm very familiar with Colorado. Would you attribute that to just like the vibe there and everybody's kind of a little more collectively creative maybe than the space that you came from in a
Um,
fun way?
I think it was more about the natural environment. I think it
Hmm.
was like New York is obviously a very hectic,
Yeah.
crazy place, and Boulder is a very serene, calm place. You're right next to nature. You can be in nature all day long if you want to, and it's not hard to get to. And I think that's what it is because what I've learned about myself is that my nervous system is really sensitive,
Hmm.
and it needs peace and it needs nature,
And
which is
here you are in Los
which is
Angeles.
something I don't have anymore now that I'm in LA. But I know enough now to find things that I can do that can calm my nervous system, like deep breathing or going to the beach or getting out into the woods or whatever it is. But I know how important now it is to maintain my nervous system. But anyway, the work started really coming out of me. And I think the two-pronged thing that happened in Boulder was A, I got to like relax my nervous system, and B, I started using psychedelics. And it
Okay.
sounds so cliche,
Especially
like,
right now
oh,
when it's very
artist, like,
popular.
blah, blah, blah. But Boulder was really on the forefront of like using psychedelics in an intentional way and in a
Mm.
therapeutic way. And I started using psychedelics, and the work really started coming out of me. I mean, the first thing I did there was a friend of mine asked me to be in a portrait show. She had some show called Man in the 21st Century, and so it was portraits of men, and I did a bunch of work there, and then just like one thing after the other started happening, and I started getting inspired. I had this one conversation with a female friend of mine, who historically had been a bigger girl, and she really kind of opened up to me about her weight and all of everything that's sort of emotionally and physically tied up in it, like literally physical pain and also emotional pain and shame and all of that. And I was like, I'm going to do a series about this conversation, and I did like six paintings of they were very fleshy paintings, and they were my hands kind of holding her, holding this body that was meant to represent her. It wasn't her. I
Mm.
asked her to do it, and she didn't want to do it. Uh,
Hmm.
but I wanted to at least give her that opportunity if she did. But I had a friend of mine come over, and I was like, "Hey, can I just grab
Grab
you?"
you.
Get naked and let me grab you any way that I feel like grabbing you. And she was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. So she
Awesome.
came over, and I just like had all of these really like grippy, fleshy, grabby paintings. And then that just took off. From there, I got a lot more colorful and a lot more playful. My work moved to a very like powerful, confident, energetic place.
What kind of when you say you were taking hallucinogenics was it mushrooms or was it acid and then did you do it while you worked or did you have an experience and then you came back and your mind felt clear that allowed you to paint?
Yeah, well, I definitely didn't do it while I was working. I mean, I did experiment with that a little bit with a little bit of like microdosing acid. Um,
So it was acid you were doing or was it mushrooms or a combo?
Mostly mushrooms. Mushrooms are my medicine of choice.
And they're fresh mushrooms or they were, like you said, microdose?
They're dried mushrooms that I would like, I'd measure them out very, very carefully. And
So it was more of like not while you were on in the experience. It was like you had when you had after you tripped, it had cleaned your mind and loosened you up in order to give you this ability to create more.
there's not a direct link that I can discern about making art and doing psychedelics, other than the coincidence of the fact that
It
once I
happened.
started doing psychedelics, the work started pouring out of me.
Right.
Like it wasn't like I would see some vision and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go put that on a canvas."
Hmm.
It was more sort of cause and effect, I guess.
And that yeah, it wasn't like a boom. It was just it eventually, and maybe that and the combo of being out in nature too, all of it.
Yeah, I think it's all of it for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
Oh,
like I
Steve,
said,
hold
what's
on,
that?
Steve. I'm going to interrupt you again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just to give some perspective to our listeners, this time that you move, out of New York and go to Colorado and start really painting is about how many years ago? Because it wasn't that long ago.
Right. So I left New York to go to Boulder in 2016. And probably by 2017, I was painting.
Okay, and
Like
that is
I'd gotten a studio. Like it happened fast now that I'm thinking about it,
mhm.
actually. Yeah, like I just started doing it really quickly.
Okay, so that is just under a decade that you've been doing this. And
Yeah.
I've been able to watch even a transformation happen with you in the last, I've only known you, I don't know, handful of months, under a year. And I've watched you
Hmm.
transition in style. And I'm looking back at your artwork, the older, it's like it's really interesting. A lot of artists will kind of hone in on a style or what have you, and that's their work because somebody liked it, somebody bought it, and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
this is what sells. I'm going to keep making this, but you keep transforming. So, and it's been such a short period of time that you went from a salesman to an artist. In my mind, as someone who's finds it difficult to paint something round. So continue, but I just want to give like some time perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a really, when you look at it, short period of time, and my work is changing a lot. And I don't know if that's to my detriment or not. I mean, if you ask people in the art world, they'll say that it is to my detriment because galleries want to see that you're consistent, and they want to buy this body of work, not the one you're going to come up with in a few months. And but I think that I would rather pursue what I want to pursue and take my work to a place that I'm more satisfied, because I'm not satisfied. I
Okay.
guess is the
That's fair.
bottom line. I make work that I think is cool, and then 6 months later, I'm like, I don't know how cool that was. So my work is constantly changing, and I get feedback a lot. There's a guy in LA who's sort of like he's like a legend in LA, and he does this sort of an artist portfolio review. His name is LC. He's one of the owners of ThinkSpace Gallery, and he was looking at some pieces I was doing where I was making these women's faces and I was putting words over the faces, and he really liked that. He's like, do that for a little bit. He's like, stay here and do that. That's really cool. And I'm over it. I'm done with it. I made like six of them, and I'm done. And now I'm doing this sort of neo baroque thing. And who knows how long that's gonna last? You know what I mean?
Right. So wait, what brought you from So you got from
Yeah, yeah. Let me back
Colorado
up.
to
Let
here.
me back up. So I'm in Colorado and I'm making lots of work and I'm trying to get my work out there in Colorado. Like I'm right by Denver, so I'm going to Denver all the time. But there are literally about five galleries in Denver that, I mean, there's more than five total, but in terms of sort of like higher end galleries, galleries that I would, well, that's just the thing. Like I was sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because there's lots of galleries, but there's lots of sort of like more sort of amateur, like hobbyist galleries.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a handful of serious galleries, like maybe five or six.
Oh, okay.
And in LA, you can find five or six
In a block.
good galleries in a block in a building. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
So really, for me, the art scene wasn't robust enough. Um, not to diminish the people out there trying to, make it more robust, but like I felt like I needed to go someplace where there was really a big artist community, and I think I was right for coming here for sure because the community is here, and the opportunities I've already had here in the 2 years I've been here have been um, just really serendipitous. Like lots of like cool serendipitous things happen here in LA, and I feel like that's sort of a result of doing the thing that the universe wants you to do. You know what I mean? Things just kind of happen for you. A
Right.
friend of mine back in Boulder used to say that the universe wants to collude with you, and I love that so much.
Yeah.
Um, so I got here and I got a studio in downtown LA, and I just started going to every art show I could get to and meeting people. Um, but one of the very serendipitous things that happened is the studio that I got was attached to this giant sort of empty space that wasn't really being used.
Mm-hmm.
So my studio was on the mezzanine level of this giant space, and the ground level storefront space is this giant 4,000 square foot space. And the woman who built out the whole place just wanted to use it as sort of a community space for artists, but really didn't like have much of
Plan?
a plan for it. And I was like, well, I asked, I said, can I curate some art shows here? And she was like, yeah. She's like, absolutely. So I started curating. I did one show, which led to another show, which led to me becoming the curator of Lucky Cat Gallery in downtown LA. And we're now like really on the map, and we have solid shows, and we're building a reputation, and I love it. Like I love curating. That's something I've learned about myself since being here. I did one.
Explain curating, if you would, too, please.
Sure, sure. So I'm the guy who reaches out to all the artists, who puts the shows together and hangs the art and does all the marketing, and then handles the sales and sends the money back to the art, like everything you can imagine.
So you get to pick the artist who will be at a show. You're essentially
Yeah,
like creating the vibe.
Do you help him
exactly.
decide how much he should charge for the price, or she, he or she?
I do not decide that, but I will help guide some artists when it comes to pricing, because there's a huge sort of spectrum of pricing, and sometimes artists charge too little, and sometimes they charge too much. I mean, artists tend to charge too much,
Yeah.
because
Go higher, go home.
because I get it. You know what I mean? Like you poured your time and heart and soul and tears into these pieces, and you want to charge what you feel they're worth, but there's a lot of factors involved. Like where are you in your career? Do you have real collectors? Do you have art gallery interest? Like, are they approaching you? Are you getting solo shows? Did you just start painting 6 months ago? Like, and do you have like 40 followers on Instagram? Like, where are you in your career? All these things matter.
So part of
Also, the economy matters. Right now our economy is a little bit wobbly, and people aren't reaching in their pockets as deeply as they have. For instance, apparently in 21 and 22, a lot of people were buying art because they was sort of like they were stuck at home for a year, and they were just collecting their money, stacking their money up, and wouldn't go out and do anything with it. So people went out and bought a lot of art, and now people are a little tighter again.
so one of the things that was a catalyst to get you back painting was when you split from your wife and moved out to Colorado. I mean, is that a part of why I mean, the changes were made, and do you want to talk a little bit about what happened with that?
With my wife.
I
Yeah,
mean,
tell us the
that's
relationship. Like it's an end of a relationship, and then
critical part of
yeah,
why you decide
Yeah.
was the end. It was the end of that relationship and the end of your time in New York City.
Yeah. Well, all that's there was a lot of things happening at the same time there. So like while I was still married, I had discovered this thing called Rolfing, and I was beginning to look into Rolfing when the marriage was sort of sliding. And so I had already had plans to go to Boulder, and I don't remember the exact sequence of things, but at one point my wife just she moved out and she moved back home and with her parents, and I was going and I'd gone to Colorado for the first phase. So there's three phases in this Rolfing thing, and I'd gone to Colorado for the first phase, and then I came back to New York, and I was like, you know what? When I go back to Colorado for this second phase, I'm just going to stay there.
I'm
I'm
just
just going
gonna
to
say.
pack my shit and I'm just going to stay in Colorado. Um,
So
you know,
had you already quit your job at the ad agency?
I was freelancing at the time. So I just told the people I was freelancing for, I said,
I'm
Okay.
out.
I'm out of here at this certain time, so I'll see you later. Like it wasn't even like I had to quit a job per se.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And
Um,
then I want to touch on just because I have a little bit more of a backstory with your life. And there's a correlation among young artists who choose not to pursue art as a career. Like my daughter, even though she ended up going to art school, she started in engineering because she too didn't want to be a poor, starving artist. And you mentioned that, and you having told me a little bit about your childhood, like you didn't grow up in the lap of luxury. And maybe if you want to speak to that a little bit, why that was also kind of a guiding factor in you not like, because you clearly were already doing art, making these jackets, right?
right. Yeah, I don't, like I wasn't like destitute or anything, but like our family didn't have money. We didn't like some of the things we didn't have cable, we didn't have air conditioning, which is ridiculous. Like we could have, but like I lived in a very dysfunctional home, and that I could not wait to get out of. And
So
but
maybe art didn't seem like the
art
quickest
did,
pathway out.
yeah, it didn't, and I knew that I didn't have the resources to rely on. You know what I mean? A lot of the kids that do become full-time artists have resources, like they've got parents that can help them out. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying I didn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, and I chose instead to do something that was going to be more reliable financially. And maybe I could have figured out. I could have, gone to art school and worked three jobs as a barista and did all that and really made that happen. But it happened the way it did. Like I got to have my whole advertising life, and I got to make good money, and I got to sock a whole bunch of it away. And now I'm not too worried about I'm like right now I'm only making art, and it's the only thing I'm doing, and it's because I squirreled my money away in advertising for years and years and years, and I can do that now for a little while. Like it's not like I'm retired forever and I won't ever have to work again, but I'm able to take this really long sabbatical and do exactly what I want to do. And I'm grateful that
Yeah,
chips fell that way.
yeah.
But I also wonder if I did go to art school and really go after it, like how much further along would I be? Where would I be now?
Well,
Kind of,
maybe, yeah, and who knows? But I think that's the fun part of considering like what ifs, right? It's like
yeah,
we could dream of the potential, the different like end point, but still life happens all in between there and can change the
totally,
direction.
totally. It happened the way it did, and here I am.
And what are you? Are you past your midlife? Tell us.
Are you
I
asking
am.
for my age? I am 53.
Oh, you're young.
But I still think that is really incredible that because we've left a culture where our parents, it's like you go, you work at the factory or the job for, until your balls turn blue and you die, So to be making such a huge shift in your life in less than the last 10 years at your midlife and be in your early 50s on a fucking art sabbatical, it's like that's pretty incredible and good for you on that and everybody
Yeah,
else that's
yeah.
feeling.
I'm having fun, but I'm also so, my art is so everything to me that it's also gives me angst, like I'm always constantly in search for meaning, and I want my work to have depth, and I want my work to move people, and like I went on this big retreat slash workshop slash mentoring thing last October, which was a real game changer for me. It's called Quarantine. And if there's ever an artist listening to this who wants to check it out, I can't recommend it highly enough. It was in Spain. I went to Spain. It was me and 65 other artists and seven mentors. And all seven of these mentors were really big deals in the art world. They were either artists themselves and one of them was a curator, but the
Okay.
rest of them were artists, and they were all successful artists, and they all were in galleries. They were in museums. Like they had, you know, hundreds of thousands of followers, like really big deal artists. And as artists in this workshop, we were able to meet with three of them. And I met with one woman in particular. She was the curator, and she pulled the rug out from under me in a way that at the time felt so unsettling, and just
It was.
like I was having like a come to Jesus. Like I was like, what am I doing? I gotta change everything. She said, hey, you need to draw more. She said you need to draw all the time. She said you need to be in front of masterworks. You have to go see work, 100-year-old. You need to be in museums looking at Peter Paul Rubens and Rembrandts and all of it. You need to be in front of it often. And she was like, you should go to New York. And I was like,
You're like, no.
I did that already. I don't want to go to New York. Um,
Did she give you a why? Did she say because this is
she didn't. She didn't have to. I knew she was right. I knew in my heart and in the back of my mind, I knew she was right. She was like, you need to leave LA because those masterworks aren't in LA. Which, yeah. So, so I'm not going to leave LA, not yet anyway, but I am going to Europe on Sunday, as a matter of fact. And it's going to be a completely 100% art consuming trip. So
Awesome.
going to Barcelona and then Paris and then Amsterdam and Belgium and then Berlin. And the reason we're landing in Berlin was because I asked her during that retreat thing, I said, what about Berlin? I was like, is
Mhm.
Berlin it? She said, yeah, Berlin's a great art town. So there's a little bit of scoping out Berlin as potentially a place to go next.
But I still don't understand. I mean, I get the concept, but the why, the because.
Would she,
So,
let
So
me,
I get it. You said I get it, but it's like, can you
yeah,
did she
so
pick you
drawing,
out, Steve? Did she pick you out and she's like, I see master work from you and you need to go look at these masterworks? Was it like something very personal to you?
I mean, it was a one-on-one with her. So it wasn't like, um, I don't know. I showed her my work, and that's what she said. And I didn't question it. I mean, and I will sort of do my best to articulate why she said what she said. Drawing more. Like, drawing is the absolute fundamental beginning of making art, and it's where ideas come, it's where ideas get fleshed out. I don't have much of a drawing practice. It's one of those things, it's like a little bit of a chore, and like you've got to like make yourself draw every day. And she was like, she's like, go out, sit in a coffee shop, draw the people, like go to a museum, draw the paintings, draw trees, draw everything. She's like, you need to develop sort of a muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I learned at this event, a lot of the artists so every day we would go to this magnificent hall, and every day started with a talk from one of the artists. and they'd give a 2 hour talk. And one of the things they had mentioned, and like these guys were painting, like they painted realistically, and they were like, so many of them were like, I don't use reference. Like they would paint a person in some wild position and not use a reference for it. And it blew my mind. I was like, and then paint shadows accurately and realistically. And that is a direct result of drawing a lot. So there's a reason why she said drawing a lot.
Interesting.
So, you know, so it's just such a rich exercise in every respect. Um, she said, learn the masters, which is what I've been doing, by the way, ever since I got back from Spain. I've been poring over books and like really giving myself an education in art history. And one of the biggest takeaways is that artists copy
Right.
all the time, and it's not considered a bad thing. It's what they do. Everyone from Rubens to Picasso to Koons, they all copy other artists. And I think what happens is by doing that, you learn how to paint well, and you're never going to copy them exactly. Like whatever it is that you are referencing is going to become yours.
Right. Well, it's like music. I think that's a very similar practice. Like there are only so many chords, there are only so many notes, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
often emulate masters, people who have published music. I'm just letting you guys know we have 2 minutes and 43 seconds.
yeah. Like when you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't become an architect without learning all the different styles and stuff that came before you.
Hmm.
Like every artist, every good artist, all of the best artists in the world copy other artists. And they take things and they put things together and they mix them with their own thing, but they're using references all the time. And in hindsight, it's silly to me that I actually didn't know all this stuff and was just like, yeah, I'll just paint something.
Because then that, in hindsight, then that might have been something you would have, if you had gone to an art school or studied more art when you were younger, that might have helped in the right where you are now.
I probably would have learned that in art school, yeah. Um, but art schools are also a double-edged sword too, because I understand that art schools like teach a very specific way, and
Hmm.
if you want to do something that's sort of not that way, that's
Yeah.
frowned upon.
My
Like
You know,
daughter, yeah, left art. Well, she just left art school because she was like, I don't have time or the not following their rule book right now to work on my own what I want to be creating.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah. So, people arrive at the place they are in their art life, in a million different ways. And that's kind of what's beautiful about it. Like you don't need to go to law school and get your, and pass the bar. Like you can just pick up a paintbrush and start painting.
Yeah. Cool.
nice.
Guys, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much, Steve. I know it's difficult to get, three people.
No, this was great. I feel like there's so many components of this that we could take and I could talk for another hour
Well,
about.
you can come back because
Yeah,
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 we
yeah.
can.
Because I actually have more questions too, because I feel like we're kind of getting into the heart of it right now. But
Like the meaning.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's a whole other can of worms that could easily take up another 17,000 episodes.
And art and your guys is both of you and Babs are super, forefront in your lives. And so I think that's
Oh, art, yeah. And you've been in a couple of my videos. So thank you so much. I love it. He's had some great ideas that have led us down some weird